Welcome back YouTubers to my channel of an everyday life of an Aspie. If you're new, I'm Aspie. I'm all about creating mental health and awareness and sharing my life stories with Asperger's syndrome, autism, as well as also taking you all on a journey with life with me with Asperger's syndrome, along with also tips and advice and everything else in between that. So if you haven't seen any of these, smash the subscribe button on the bottom right hand corner and feel free to turn on the notification bell for not missing any future videos like these. So as been brought to my attention, I said I'm going to be sharing with you all at least 10 common drugs that has been used in our everyday life, regardless what they are, and hopefully in saying this you've learned something along the way. Let me know so in the comment section below, as well as for the ones that may have used any form of drugs that I'm clearly sharing more in depth now. Feel free to comment also in the bottom of the comments there and let us start the conversation. It's all about Ecstasy or Mdma, so if you're liking these so far, also smash the like too, so it much be appreciated. So Ecstasy, or as its chemical structural name is known for, is Mdma, or 4-methyl whatever name, commonly known as Ecstasy, a psychoactive drug primarily used as a recreational drug, as we know. The desired effects includes altered sensations and increased energy, empathy and pleasure. Moreover, when taken by mouth, however, effects begin after 30 to 45 minutes and last up to 3 to 6 hours. As of 2018, Mdma has no approved medical uses. Adverse effects may include addiction, memory problems, paranoia, difficulty sleeping, teeth grinding, blurred vision, sweating and a rapid heartbeat. Deaths have been reported due to increased body temperature and dehydration. Following use, people often feel depressed and tired. Mdma acts primarily by increasing the activity of the neurotransmitters serotonin, dopamine and noradrenaline in parts of the brain. It belongs to the substituted amphetamine classes of drugs and has stimulant and hallucinogenic effects. Mdma was first made in the year of 1912. It was used to improve psychotherapy that began in the 1970s and became popular as a street drug in the 1980s, however. Mdma is commonly associated with dance parties, raves, and electronic dance music. It's often sold mixed with other substances such as ephedrine, amphetamine, and methamphetamine. In 2016 alone, however, there has been about 21 million people around the ages of 15 and 64 that has used ecstasy, 0.3% of the world population. This was broadly similar to the percentage of people who use cocaine or amphetamines, but fewer than 4 cannabis or opioid users. In the United States alone, however, as of 2017, about 7% of people has used Mdma at some point in their life, and 0.9% have used it in the last year. Mdma is illegal in most countries. Limited exceptions are sometimes used or made for research. Researchers are investigating, however, whether Mdma may assist in treating severe treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder, with phase 3 clinical trials to look at the effectiveness and safety expected to begin in 2018. In 2017, however, the FDA granted Mdma a breakthrough therapy designation for PTSD, meaning if studies show promise, however, a review for potential medical use could occur more quickly. In general, Mdma users report feeling the onset of subjective effects within 30 to 60 minutes after consuming Mdma and reaching the peak effect of up to 75 to 120 minutes, which then plateaus for about 3.5 hours. The desired short-term psychoactive effects of Mdma has been reported to include the following: Euphoria, a sense of general well-being and happiness, increased self-confidence, sociability and feelings of communication being easy or simple, enedioxy effects such as increased empathy or feelings of closeness to oneself or others, relaxation and reduced anxiety, increased emotionality, a sense of inner peace, mild hallucination, enhanced sensation, perception or sexuality, older sense of... The experience elicited by Mdma will depend again, as always with most drugs, on the amount of the dose, the use, the setting, and the user. The variability of the induced altered state by MDMA is lowered compared to other psychedelics. However, for example, MDMA used at parties is associated with high motor activity, reduced sense of self-identity, as well as poor awareness of the background surroundings. Use of MDMA individually or in a small group in a quiet environment and when concentrating is associated with increased lucidity, capability of concentration, sensitivity of aesthetic aspects of the background that's going on around them and emotions, as well as greater capability of communication with others. In psychotherapeutic settings, however, MDMA effects have been described by infantile ideas, altering phases of moods, sometimes memories and moods connected with childhood experiences. Sometimes MDMA is labelled as an empathogenic drug because of its empathy-producing effects that it does to people. Results of different studies have shown its effects of powerful empathy with others. When testing the MDMA for medium and high dose ranges, it showed increase on hedonic as well as arousal continuum. The effect of MDMA increasing sociability is consistent, however, effects on empathy may have been more mixed. MDMA is often considered the drug of choice with the rave culture that has been known for many years and is also used at nightclubs, festivals, house parties and the like. In every rave movement, however, the sensory effects from the music and lighting are often high synergistic with the drug. The psychedelic amphetamine quality of the MDMA offers multiple reasons for its appeal to users in the rave settings around them. Some users enjoy the feeling of mass communion from the inhibition reducing effects of the drug, while others use it as party fuel because of the drug's stimulatory effects. MDMA is used less frequently than other stimulants, however typically less than once per week. MDMA is sometimes taken in conjunction with other psychoactive drugs such as LSDs, psilocybin mushrooms and ketamine, which is an act called candy flippers. However, as of 2017, MDMA has no accepted medical indications before it was widely banned. It saw limited use in therapy. A small number of therapists, however, continues to use MDMA in therapy despite its illegal status. Obviously, what sort of forms you can get them in has become widely known as Ecstasy, shortened as EX or Ecstasy, TC, usually referring to its tablet form, although this term may also include the presence of possible endurance or dilutants. The UK term Mandy and the US term Molly, colloquially referred to as MDMA, in a crystalline powder form that is thought to be free of adulterants. MDMA is also sold in the form of hydrochloride salts, either as loose crystals or in gel caps. In part due to the global supply shortage of sassafras oil, substances that are sold as Molly frequently contain no MDMA and instead contains methylene, ethylene, MDPV, methadone, or any other form of the group compounds commonly known as bath salts. Powdered MDMA ranges and increases profits, such as your lactose and binding agents. Tablets sold as ecstasy sometimes contains 3 to 4 methyl-methamphetamine and other amphetamine derivatives, caffeine, opiates, or painkillers. Some tablets contain little or no to effects of the MDMA. The proportion of seized ecstasy tablets with MDMA like impurities has varied annually and by country. The average content of MDMA is in preparation is to be 70 to 120 milligrams, with the purity having increased since the year of the 1990s. MDMA is usually consumed by mouth, but it can also be used, sometimes snorted. To look out for acute adverse effects are usually the result of high or multiple doses, as we know, although single dose toxicity can occur in susceptible individuals. The most serious short-term physical health risks of MDMA are hypothermia and dehydration. Cases of life-threatening or fatal hyponatremia, which is your excessively low sodium concentration in the blood, has developed in MDMA users attempting to prevent dehydration by consuming excessive amounts of water without replenishing electrolytes. The immediate adverse effects to look out for, however, is dehydration, hypothermia, bruxism, which is obviously your grinding of the teeth, increased wakefulness or insomnia, increased perspiration and sweating, increased heart rate and blood pressure, increased psychomotor activity, loss of appetite, nausea and vomiting, diarrhea, erectile dysfunction, visual and auditory hallucinations. This is highly rarely, but it may happen to some people. Mydresis. The first effects that last up to a week following cessation of the moderate Mdma uses includes physiological trismus, loss of appetite, insomnia, tiredness or lethargy, psychological, which will be your anxiety or paranoia, depression, irritability, impulsiveness, restlessness, memory impairments, and anhedonia effects. As of 2015, the long-term effects of Mdma on human brain structure and function has not been yet fully determined. However, there is consistent evidence of structural and functional deficits in Mdma users with a high lifetime exposure. In contrast, however, there is no evidence of structural or functional changes in Mdma users with only a moderate, less than 50 doses used and less than 100 tablets consumed in the lifetime of exposure. Mdma used at high doses has been clearly shown to produce brain lesions, a form of brain damage in the serotonic neural pathways of humans and animals. It's unclear if typical Mdma users may, however, develop neurotoxic brain lesions. Long-term exposure to Mdma in humans has been shown to produce marked neurodegeneration in striatal, hippocampal, prefrontal, and occipital serotonic axon terminals. Neurotoxic damage to serotonic axon terminals has been shown to persist more than 2 years. Elevations in brain temperature from Mdma use are positively correlated with MDA-induced neurotoxicity. Adverse neuroplastic changes to the brain, microvasculature, and white matter also occur in humans using low dose of Mdma. Reduced grey matter density in certain brain structures has also been noted in the human Mdma users. Global reductions in grey matter volume, thinning of the parietal and orbitofrontal cortices, and decreased hippocampal activity have been observed in long-time users. The effects established so far for recreational use of ecstasy lies in the range of moderate to large effects for SERT reduction. Impairments in multiple aspects of cognition includes attention, learning, memory, visual processing, and sleep have been found in regular Mdma users. The magnitude of those impairments is correlated with the lifetime Mdma usage and partially reversible with abstinence. Several forms of memory are impaired by chronic ecstasy use. However, the effect sizes for memory impairments in ecstasy users are generally quite small overall. Mdma use is also associated with increased impulsivity and depression. Serotonin depletion following Mdma use can cause depression in subsequent days. Many cases, however, or some cases, depressive symptoms persist for longer. Some studies have indicated repeated recreational uses of ecstasy has increased rates of depression and anxiety even after quitting the drug. Depression is one of the main factors for cessation of use. On how these work, obviously I will have it shown up above me as well, but I'll read to you what it looks like to you. So what happens here is your serotonin binds to receptors on the neurons, as clearly illustrated. A serotonin transporter moving a serotonin molecule. The Mdma binding to serotonin neurotransmitters. MDA binds to the serotonin transporters. Mdma acts primarily as a presynaptic releasing agent of serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, which arises from its activity at trace amine associated receptors and vesicular hormone transporter. MDA is also a monoamine transporter receptor substrate, for example a substrate for DAT, NET, and ECRT. So it enters monoamine neurons via these neuronal membrane transport proteins by acting as a monoamine transporter substrate. Mdma produces competitive reuptake inhibition at the neuronal membrane level of these transporters. For example, it competes with the endogenous monoamines for reuptake. Mdma inhibits both vesicular and monoamine transporters, and the second of which is highly expressed within monoamine neurons at vesicular membranes. Once inside a neuron, Mdma acts as a VMA2 inhibitor and a TAA antagonist. Inhibition of VMA2 by Mdma results in increased concentrations of the associated neurotransmitters of serotonin, norepinephrine, or dopamine. In the cytosol of a monoamine neuron, activation of TAR1 by Mdma triggers protein kinase A and protein kinase C signaling events, which then phosphorylates the associated monoamine transporters, DAT, NAT, or SERT of the neuron. In turn, however, these phosphorylated monoamine transporters either reverse the transport directions, for example, move neurotransmitters from the cytosol to the synaptic cleft, or withdrawal into the neuron, respectively, producing neurotransmitter efflux and non-competitive reuptake inhibition at the neuronal membrane transporters. Mdma has 10 times more affinity for uptake at serotonin transporters compared to dopamine and norepinephrine transporters, and consequently has mainly serotogenic effect. So, in summary, obviously, Mdma enters the monoamine neurons by acting as a nominal transporter substrate. Mdma activity at VMA2T2 moves neurotransmitters and from the synaptic vesicles and into the systole. Mdma activity at TAAR1 moves the neurotransmitters out of the cytosol and into the synaptic cleft, as illustrated above us. Mdma also has a weak agonist activity at postsynaptic serotonin receptors 5-HT1 and 5-HT2 receptors. And its more efficacious metabolite, MDA, likely augments the section cortisol, prolactin, and oxytocin quantities in the serum are increased by Mdma. Mdma reaches maximal concentrations in the bloodstream between 1.5 to 3 hours after ingestion, as mentioned. It's then slowly metabolized and is secreted with levels of Mdma and its metabolites decreasing to half their peak concentration over the next several hours. The duration of action of Mdma is usually 4 to 6 hours, after which serotonin levels in the brain are depleted. Serotonin levels typically return to normal within 24 to 48 hours. Well, this quickly ends a short overview, hopefully all about your Ecstasy. Smash the like if you liked it, comment below. Feel free to share these videos around. Feel free to also follow me on my social medias. Feel free to also, as I said before, that at this point of time I've got basically my online merch, and even though there's only a short amount of time left, if you want to purchase anything up there, you've got until probably 2 days now to gain a 50% off when you do purchase an item. It'll be linked in the description below of my online store if you would like to see that, as well as many other things that are changing. So without further ado, guys, thanks for support, thanks for watching, do what you love it.